Hello, I'm Bruce Marlowe with 21st Century Insurance. As an auto insurance company, we understand how important driving is. It provides independence, but also can be dangerous. At 21st, we handle over 1,000 claims every day. Most are preventable. That's why we're committed to giving you the information you need to prevent accidents and the potential for harm to yourself and others. We hope that you find this program on senior drivers interesting and helpful.
Driving to our friends is very important, otherwise I don't think we'd have a chance to see them.
Suddenly she got back into the car and just drove off directly into the building that was in front of us.
Well, I know that I'm a good driver, but I noticed that on the highway, other people don't adhere to the rules.
A car is coming in the opposite direction from us, made a left turn directly in front of us. We had a head-on collision.
I think that stereotypes about senior drivers are unfortunate, as are most stereotypes.
America is aging. Life expectancy is increasing. Seniors are more independent than ever and can maintain good health and social lives well into old age. The older population of the United States is today's fastest growing demographic, expanding at twice the rate of any other population sector. The issues that will arise in the near future have begun to take shape in the public mind and have become routine in our collective discourse. But one issue that is central to the concept of successful aging has so far operated under the radar of public scrutiny, yet has consumed discussion at kitchen tables across America. How are families going to deal with the issue of elderly drivers? While individuals discuss this issue in reference to specific loved ones, a vast generation is about to retire. Is America ready? In recent years, a significant decrease in the motor vehicle fatality rate of older persons has been observed. The reasons are still unclear, but there is little doubt that traffic accidents and fatalities will continue to be a problem, especially since accidents that involve seniors are often deadlier given the frail state of older bodies.
Their bones become more brittle. They are less flexible, they're less resilient, and more prone to bleeding and bruising. Frequently, older people take medications that make them even more prone to bleeding, like blood thinners. So that does make them a lot more prone to injury.
Younger drivers commonly but mistakenly believe that seniors represent the greatest danger on the road. A number of recent studies have shown that while seniors are more at risk in crashes, collision rates of older drivers compare favorably with other age groups, although rising somewhat among those 80 and older. However, when measured by the number of actual miles, elderly drivers are more likely to be involved in fatal car accidents than any adult age group. Deadly crashes start to increase at around the age of 60 and escalate rapidly at around the age of 80. It has been estimated that in the future, seniors will travel more miles than current older drivers. If today's statistics are an accurate prediction of upcoming trends, the number of accidents involving seniors will inevitably rise. Some studies even suggest that fatal accidents involving elderly drivers could triple by the year 2030. Muted public discussion of this looming crisis is often galvanized by rare but shocking events like the incident in Santa Monica, California in the summer of 2003, when an 86-year-old driver killed 10 people and wounded dozens more at an outdoor market. The public outrage that follows such an event overshadows the complicated reality for seniors, many of whom have few other transportation options.
Research accumulated in the last decade, more or less, indicates that people who cannot drive anymore tend to become prisoners in their own home or their own place of living, whatever that is. In so doing, they lose independence, they lose mobility, they also lose a sense of self-worth, and that means that mobility becomes a critical issue.
The loss of driving rights can lead to isolation and dependency, It may even create severe depression, especially in men.
Even realizing that older drivers as a group tend to be safe, we have to realize that at some point they may have physical and cognitive problems that do interfere with their ability to drive and may put them at risk. In view of that, it's important for seniors themselves to understand that assessment is critical, self-assessment, which leads to reevaluation.
There are a number of signals that should alert seniors that they are losing their driving skills and need to examine their ability to maintain their current driving schedules. Ask yourself the following questions. Have you come to dread the idea of driving during bad weather or at night? The deterioration of eyesight is an inevitable part of aging. Light absorption is reduced, which can create difficulty for elderly drivers in the dark. It can seem as if headlights are coming right for you. The lines on the road are harder to distinguish. It is more difficult to orient yourself in relation to other vehicles, and the glare from other cars and neon signs can cause discomfort. Do you find left-hand turns and busy intersections more difficult to navigate? Many older drivers avoid left-hand turns by using a strategy of 3 right-hand turns instead. No evidence exists to prove that this is any safer. In fact, this approach has been questioned recently by experts who believe that the additional driving required for 3 right turns may increase the likelihood of an accident or getting lost, particularly in unfamiliar territory. There is nothing wrong with keeping away from traffic flows and intersections that cause you stress, but you should be aware that you are avoiding them because you find them increasingly difficult to navigate, and it may indicate a need for you to examine your other driving habits. Have you noticed a change in the way other drivers behave? Lately, you've begun to think that other drivers have stopped paying attention to the rules. They drive too fast, tailgate, and have become more hostile, even at times when you are certain that you are obeying all the traffic laws and driving within the speed limit. Has it become more common for you to see another driver making angry gestures at you? Is parking more difficult? Parking your car used to be easy, whether it was parallel parking or in a parking lot. But now the angles are too complicated to negotiate, and it's more and more difficult to see how close you are to other parked vehicles. Have you stopped trying to park parallel? Do you find parking difficult unless it is a diagonal spot in a parking lot? Do other cars sometimes seem to appear from nowhere? If your first awareness of another car is when it is right in front of you, obviously you have had a serious lapse in observation. The danger is compounded when you don't have the strength to apply the right amount of pressure to the brakes. Being caught by surprise by another car can happen at any time in a person's life. But has it been happening with more frequency? Has the number of near misses increased? And does it seem as if pedestrians no longer obey the rules? Near misses can happen to anyone of any age if the driver is distracted. Quick reflexes are crucial in these circumstances for the obvious reasons. Do you forget your route? Forgetfulness is common enough in older people, but does your memory loss include the routes you've been driving for years? Do you pass roads and intersections where you had intended to make a turn? Do you suddenly realize you don't know where you were supposed to be going? Or have you suffered from disorientation because you found yourself in a strange place while driving a familiar route? You should immediately seek advice from your doctor if anything of this nature happens. There are other warning signs you need to be aware of. Friends and families refusing to ride with you, lack of confidence behind the wheel, difficulty seeing signs and stoplights, feeling overwhelmed, trouble moving the steering wheel or moving your foot from pedal to pedal. Any skill that you had mastered but now seems elusive should be considered a cautionary signal that you need to evaluate your ability to drive. Loved ones must also be on the lookout for warning signs. One of the most common is unexplained dings and dents on a senior's car. check your parent or loved one's vehicle for mysterious scratches and dents. Other evidence of impacts can include unexplained bodily injuries. Most seniors develop strategies for dealing with slower reflexes, deteriorating eyesight, and other physical changes. There are ways for seniors to become safer drivers to themselves and others, and perhaps prolong the number of years they can safely take to the road.
I only drive at night when I need to, coming home from a play, something like that.
When it's storming, I would rather not go anyplace when it's raining. We stay at home.
I can't have a dialogue of three or four different subjects going on, plus planning dinner and driving too. So the big word is focus.
I'm starting to look for places where I don't have to make difficult left turns, and that involves various strategies. And I'm not to the point where I don't drive freeways, but I know that's coming. Being in fast traffic is starting to get a little bit edgy for me.
Sometimes self-regulation isn't enough. Deterioration of motor skills, eyesight, reflexes, and cognitive ability can reach a point where families are confronted with a wrenching situation, but one that must be faced. However painful a decision, some seniors must stop driving. In many cases, this is likely to be met with strong resistance, especially with men, and legitimate mobility concerns must not be brushed aside. But the key for families and loved ones is to know when they must stay firm. It is also imperative that families approach this issue with sensitivity, recognizing that seniors have legitimate and pressing transportation issues.
I do a lot of neuropsychological testing where we look at different areas of functioning, and often that can be helpful because instead of it being a you can't do this, it's more let's see what you can and can't do. Let's see what we can do perhaps to see if there are ways to augment what you can do versus just taking it away. But I think that family members would be, I think it would be very helpful for them to get professional help, go to the doc, talk about also what's happening with medications. Are your medications getting in the way? What can we in general do to boost you up versus just taking away the license? And I think by going to a physician, a psychologist, or some other expert in the field, it gets it out of being a family power struggle, which is, as we all know, usually doesn't work very well.
A handful of states have regulations that require doctors to notify authorities when their patients have become a danger to themselves and others. Standards differ from state to state, and mandatory criteria are still the subject of debate. In most cases, the local DMV is notified, which can then schedule a series of tests based on the doctor's concerns.
I do have a duty to report patients who might have loss of consciousness that might make them more prone to accidents, or confusion and dementia that might be a hazard for other drivers.
Families and loved ones must take an active role while being careful to respect the fears of seniors for whom transportation is crucial. But sometimes there is no room for negotiation.
My grandfather was a doctor, very well respected in his community, was living in a retirement home alone. He went out one day, and the very week that they were thinking of taking his keys away, and got in his car, and witnesses saw the car swerving as it approached an intersection, and he drove right through the stop sign and into side traffic and hit 4 other cars in a pileup. And fortunately nobody else was hurt, but he went into a semi-comatose state and didn't come out. 2 weeks later he was gone.
If the message is handled correctly, many seniors can be made to feel more comfortable about the idea of not driving.
If you're saying you need to give up driving, we've also got to think about, so what else are we going to put in place? What are we going to do to help you be mobile so that loss of the license isn't total loss of mobility?
I think that it made her very comfortable when she made the decision to stop driving, because we were available for her. I think if she didn't have, the family support, it would have been more difficult.
My son take me someplace when I want to go. My grandson live with me. They take turns, I take a cab sometimes.
I really think that families get a little bit too caught up on who is helping the most or who is being put upon the most by the elderly member of the family, instead of turning to each other and saying, how can we help each other help him or her?
Many families wait until it's a crisis point before having the conversation about driving. And we don't have a lot of conversations on the run up to it, so that there aren't conversations of how can we plan for a time when you might not be able to drive? And what would you like to do at that time? What would be alternatives that we can bring in when and if we need to meet that situation?
It is possible for seniors to improve their skills and extend the number of years they can spend safely behind the wheel. Driving classes designed for seniors can refresh your memory and allow you to re-hone your skills. They also provide tips for focusing your concentration while driving. But education alone isn't enough, and recent studies suggest that there is no evidence that taking such courses makes drivers any less likely to be involved in an accident. But supporters say they raise awareness of the larger issues and may lead seniors to talk with their doctors or others about their driving skills. Talking with your doctor and pharmacist is also important. Many medications, even over-the-counter products, can cause sleepiness or disorientation, and you should be aware of the side effects before you take to the road. And as people age, side effects from medications can become more acute. Exercise is also important. If you cannot handle something as basic as turning your head to look behind you, you are a danger to yourself and others on the road. Exercise can also strengthen muscles and joints, increasing mobility and reflexes. Please consult your doctor before beginning any exercise routine. Seniors who must give up driving need to examine alternatives that will allow mobility, and the assistance of families and friends is crucial. Public transportation can be a possible alternative to driving. Even before you give up your keys, using a bus or train system can help you restrict your driving to times that are absolutely necessary. Younger family members can be enlisted to help. This requires a degree of cooperation and communication in families. Conflicting schedules should be adjusted to spread the responsibility to as many people as possible.
Our family decided to all come together and kind of pitch in when my grandmother made the decision to not drive anymore. So we had to kind of work out what schedule would work, because I work full-time. But my brother has a schedule that he was able to take off on Thursdays and Fridays and accommodate my grandma in taking her places. And then my uncle also pitched in because he's retired and is able to take her on the days that my brother can't, and then I help out on the weekends.
My grandfather has an idea that he's getting too old to drive. He does not trust himself driving his wife. That's my mother's job, or she drives all of us. And when the family, of course, the four of us go anywhere, I drive.
As the children, we really tried to carpool and figure out, ways that we could have people drive up and down. They live about 50 miles away, so it worked out well. And my uncles also were very good about driving their wives to help my mom.
Some communities offer transportation services for seniors at little or no cost. Vans and minibuses offer alternative transportation. Check with your local senior center or area agency on aging to find out if your community offers these services and what restrictions might apply. Seniors who live in suburban or rural areas have fewer options than city dwellers. Public transportation can be limited and inconvenient. And for seniors who cannot walk long distances, many bus stops are out of reach. These seniors can find themselves without any network of support. As visits with friends decrease, the interest in social activities can deteriorate, compounding the isolation. These are the seniors who require the attention of the community, who are most in need of services that are especially designed for the elderly. A recent report issued by the U.S. Department of Transportation foresees architectural changes in roadways and walkways, making traffic signs larger and easier to read, and improved public transportation systems. In addition, car manufacturers are looking at ways to make vehicles more senior-friendly with engineers using specially designed suits that simulate the effects of age. However, most major changes are years away. For now, there are things that seniors and families can do to take concrete steps toward identifying and dealing with a driving problem. Seniors can take the following actions to become more confident on the road. Use the 3-second strategy. Using a landmark of some sort, begin counting as the vehicle in front of you just passes it. Try to maintain a time distance of at least 3 seconds before you reach the same landmark. Do not let yourself become distracted. Give all of your concentration to driving. Turn off the radio and don't use a cell phone. Plan your route beforehand and drive trial runs if you will be traveling at night or if bad weather is predicted. Have a driving buddy, another set of eyes that can help by reading maps, finding addresses, and looking for landmarks. While this is also a good way to maintain social contacts, it is important that the other person does not distract you. And experts caution that a passenger will not be able to give instructions in unexpected and dangerous situations where instant decisions and reflexes are required. Do not depend on your driving buddy to help you avoid accidents. You should drive only if you are confident of your own ability to respond to sudden danger. Be honest with yourself about your ability to drive. Ask friends and loved ones about your skills, and be prepared to deal with their comments. After every incident of poor driving or a near miss, it is also important to reflect on what happened. Ask yourself if you could have prevented it, or what you might have done differently to better respond to such an event. There are many other strategies that seniors can use, such as avoiding trips while you are under stress, regular checkups for hearing and vision, and much more that you can learn about by attending a senior driving class or doing research on the web. Family members and friends can also help determine whether or not a senior is having difficulties on the road. Go on a drive with your loved one and take note of the following. Do they obey all the traffic rules? Do they have difficulty seeing signs and judging distances to other vehicles? Do they safely negotiate left-hand turns and confusing intersections? Do they have the strength and agility to turn the wheel and apply the brakes in unexpected situations? Do they brake for no reason or too often? Do they use turn signals, and do they interact safely with other vehicles? Look for other signs of driving difficulties, including a sense of fatigue afterwards, as if the trip has been extremely taxing on a senior's nerves and concentration. Inattention tops the list of reasons of why seniors get into accidents. After you have evaluated a senior's driving, and you are concerned that they may be a danger to themselves and others, it is critical that you approach them in a way that won't alienate them.
I think that one of the things that happens when younger adults start to lecture at older adults, it's because they're nervous. Suddenly they have to have the idea, they have to have the solution, and Mom, Dad, you have to go along with me, versus it being a collaborative effort of what can we do? How can I support you in your mobility at this time in your life? Versus I'm going to take this away and decide what to do for you and come up with the solution. You just have to stop driving. And I think it also goes with, people don't have to stop driving because of their age. People sometimes have to stop driving because they lose certain skills. And it's much easier, I think, for us to talk about as adults together about, I'm not as agile, my vision's not as good, my reflexes aren't as fast, to I'm 87. 87 isn't relevant, but the other skills are.
America's seniors are healthier and living longer than ever. Life expectancy has increased by 28 years over the past century, and the number of people aged 85 years and older will quadruple in the next 50 years. The challenges for seniors are changing too, and so is their responsibility to monitor themselves and to be honest and clear-headed about their options.
When I sold my house and moved to a condominium, I had to make sure of two things. One, that it was accessible to my boys who were still in school, and two, if I was still living there when I couldn't drive anymore, would I have access to a market and a bus route? And I did.
If the time comes when I pose a safety problem to others and myself, I'm going to stop driving. If I don't do it on my own, I hope that my family will see that I can't drive.
In a way, it's okay, but in a way, I miss my car, I miss my driving. But it's okay now, it's too late. I can still, if I want to drive again, but I don't want to drive. I was afraid to drive.
America's seniors have done their share. They've worked hard, raised families, and contributed to our communities. And as the world evolves, the safety and mobility of seniors must be integrated into those changes.
Bruce Marlowe again with 21st Century Insurance. We hope you enjoyed this program on senior drivers. We all like to think that we're still 21, but we're not. As we age, we need to take an honest look at our driving skills and make responsible choices. We hope that you found this program helpful and will take the time to discuss these issues with your doctor, family, and friends. Thanks for watching.